Hi, so I'm making this video to teach you about GTM, the data layer, my process in verifying my setup tags, triggers, and variables correctly. So making sure all data populates correctly, everything fires correctly, or as intended. So that's go over a bit of my quality assurance process. I'm also going to show you, beyond explaining what the data layer is, I'm also going to explain to you why you would use GTM, why it's necessary, or why it's a better solution than doing it manually. I'm also going to show you some data layer code, explain to you what that is, how it can fire, how it's deployed on a website. And I'm also going to show you a nice diagram to help teach GTM to you and explain it to in a way that's very easy to understand. No, I'm not going to use very technical language or a lot of jargon to bore you or confuse you. So yeah, without taking up any more time, let's get to it. All right. So this is Google Tag Manager, right? So let's just assume you're loading right into Google Tag Manager, new container, just like this one. This is a new container. First thing you would need to do is you would need to click right up here, and now you need to install GTM on your website. So this is a manual process that is usually done by a developer. And right now I have this website. It's just a template site. I use it for testing, teaching, but I'll show you the code files. So this is these are the actual files for this website. All the code files you can see for the site. So this is, if you look back on that first GTM script here, you'll see that is exactly what I already have. So this is the script that you need to put into the head. The head is here. This is called a head tag. I'm only telling you this not that thinking that you're going to installing it yourself. I'm telling you this so that you have full understanding of what GTM is. So you install this tag right after this opening head tag, and then you go to the body. Right after the body, you install the second one. So that is called a GTM container. Now, once you put this into your files and you save your files, launch your site or publish your site, you're done installing GTM, the software itself. It's ready to go. You can now start deploying tags, triggers, and variables. So I've already done this, as you can see. Now I want to go over to a little diagram I created, real simple. I got a really simple and easy way of explaining it, and I want to show it to you now. So GTM, you can think of GTM as a cargo ship, right? It's a ship with a bunch of these cargo containers on it, right? And you can think of tags as those cargo containers. So the tags are just holding data, right? That's all they do. They hold data and they send data somewhere else. And GTM itself is just a big ship with a bunch of tags that are shipping data somewhere. Okay? A trigger is like a traffic controller, air traffic controller, right? The guy on the street telling you stop or go. What he's doing, or what that trigger is doing, is it's telling the tag when it can fire, when it can get on the ship and go. A trigger can also be a little bit more detailed. It can also say, okay, you're only going to go when we get some data in that. Let's say you get someone adds something to cart. Okay, right? Well, we're only going to trigger when someone adds a product to cart and it also matches a certain SKU. Then that could be a criteria on the trigger, and that would tell the tag to go. So for the data layer, I want you to think of the data layer as the port. I know I'm using a lot of ship and like maritime references, but it works. So you could think of the data layer as a port. What do you do at a port? You send cargo to it. Same thing with the data layer. You send data to it. That's all it does. You send data to the data layer. It's stored there until it's ready to get on the ship and go somewhere else. That's all it does. Data layer just stores data to get ready to be put onto the ship and sent somewhere else. That's it. for the GTM container that you just pull up, just showed you here, GTM container that we installed. The reason you would want to use a GTM container, so let me explain that a bit to you. So we got scripts, call it scripts, tags. Okay. So yeah, scripts and tags, right? Now, let's say we didn't have GTM at all. We're not using GTM, and we have we want to install Google Analytics 4 on our website. We don't have GTM, so what do we need to do? We need to go to GA4 and get the actual code off of GA4 and manually put it into the site ourselves. So how would we do that? We would have to go onto our site files, and we would have to place the code manually into our code here. You know, so like we would place it here, beginning like GA4 code, place it there, another script, paste it there, and we'd have to do all that manually. And that would be for everything. JavaScript you want to run on the site, we would have to go in there and put like we would have to go into the site, script tag, put our JavaScript in here somewhere, So that's what we would have to do. And GTM allows you to avoid having to manually place code on your site for every time you want to integrate something, collect data. It allows you to set up a container once by those two scripts I showed you. Once this is set up, you don't have to add any more code manually to your site. Everything can be done from within Google Tag Manager, from in here. So what benefits does that give us? It allows us to tie up less developer resources, and it makes everything more organized. It creates a more centralized environment, So now instead of having all these files on our sites, right? So imagine, website, multiple pages. So we have, we can have this page, you get multiple pages on here. The site only has one because it's just a template. But, we can have hundreds of pages, right? So we want to deploy tags on different pages. So we have to go into the file for each page, figure out how we want to deploy this tag or the script, and, you'd have to hard code it. So GTM, you don't have to do that. You can come in here, the container is already on the site, create a new tag, and you're good to go. So that's the benefit of using Google Tag Manager. It's simpler to set up and deploy code or get data off a site for somebody who isn't a developer, and it makes everything very centralized. So back to my diagram here. So yeah, within your container, you have a bunch of tags, a bunch of scripts, right? You have a bunch all within this one container, right? So that's what you can think of a container as. You can think of a container like a bucket, this bucket here. It just holds your scripts, all of your other kind of data collection or type of things you want to do on your site, just holds it in a bucket. Instead of it being spread out through all your files, everything's in a container, in a bucket. So it's very, like I said, it's very organized, very centralized, and very easy to use for somebody who isn't that technical. So to show you like a funnel, how you get from point A being your website to point B being the end stage or the ideal like appearance of your data, like final stage. Okay, my data gets from point A to point B. So first we start off the data layer. Okay, we get our data into the data layer. You don't have to use data layer though. You can think of the data layer and GTM as two different tools because they really are two different things. You don't have to use, if you use the data layer, it doesn't mean you have to use GTM. And if you use GTM, it doesn't mean you have to use the data layer. Because you can send stuff to the data layer and then that's it. You don't have to, you can send it there and then you're done. if you want to send it to a tag and have something else be done with the tag, yes, you can do that, but it's not necessary. Like it's not a prerequisite, you know. So think of them as two different things that do work together if you want to. So first, you will start off with the data layer, like I mentioned. You'll have that. Once you go ahead and you get your data in, so once you go ahead and get your data in from the website, you would then send it to GTM, right? And GTM is going to take that data and those tags and send it somewhere else. But it's not going to do that unless the trigger says it's ready to. So website to the data layer if you want to, not necessary because you could go website website GTM. Then trigger, if it checks the criteria, tag ships and it goes to wherever else it's going to go. Because the data layer is just a way to store data and get it off the site and store it for further use. So, yeah, I hope you understand a bit more with GTM on that. Now I'm going to hop back into Google Tag Manager and show you how everything works, and then we're going to move on to actually looking at data layer code and understanding it a bit more. All right, so we are in GTM, and I'm going to show you setting up tags, setting up triggers, setting up variables, and some best practices. So when I want to go ahead and start setting something up, I first need to know what's my goal? What am I trying to do? You know, because I want you to think of GTM as endless, as infinite possibilities on what you can do in terms of shipping your data from one spot to another. Okay, so with that being said, if something has endless possibilities, then I need to know what I want. I can't go into GTM and be like, oh, what's possible GTM? I can do anything in it. So what do I want? Okay, maybe I want to fire a data layer event when someone clicks a button, but I only want it to fire when they click a button with a certain title, right? And then once that fires, I want to go ahead and fire some custom code, some custom JavaScript code, right? Okay. Now you know what you want. You've defined the criteria to fire. You've defined what you want it to do. So now you, like after it fires, what kind of tag you want to go ahead and fire. So now you know. Now you can go into GTM and say, okay, I know what I need to do. Because if you go in GTM and you kind of like look around, and try to figure out what you can and can't do, you don't want to look at GTM as limited, because there's really so much you can do with it. And I'll show you that. So here you have your featured tags. You can send stuff to GA4. Oops, I always do that. You can send stuff to Google Ads. Your Google tags, conversion linker for AdWords. Custom code, you can run, custom JavaScript. That one's used a lot. Another one that's used a lot is like Facebook pixels, Snapchat pixel. But here you see Cora pixel. You see, these are all templates, and there's so many things you can do. So many things, like community template gallery. Yeah, so a lot of things. I'm sure there's like a Facebook template on here. Yep, this is a really nice template I've used before. Makes deploying a Facebook pixel really easy, really nice. You send custom parameters along with it. But yeah, it's like I was saying, the possibilities are endless. Not only just with templates, but also with custom code. I mean, this is an empty box. I mean, sky's the limit. What you're gonna write here, what JavaScript you're gonna write, what how you want to manipulate a browser or extract some code from a URL. You can really do anything. So first, I want to show you the data layer stuff, and then we're going to work our way up. Like I said, first you need to get your data off the site into the data layer if that's what you want, and then you go ahead over to GTM. So let's do that. Okay. Okay. So I'm using something called Tag Assistant, and what that is just preview. So here, preview here is going to open up something called Tag Assistant, and what that is, it's GTM's debugging tool. It'll show you what page you're on. So right now, the page I'm on is called Solid Template. You'll see the page here, and then it'll show you every single event that fires, right? But this is not your site, your container is not live yet, right? So I haven't hit submit yet. So that means I can test everything without pushing things live to my site, which is pretty cool. Nobody else is going to see this because it's not live, so you can test in like your own little environment, and it's pretty neat. So you'll see all your events here. So like the window's been loaded, and then when you click an event, it'll show you which tags have fired and which have not. So when you're creating your tags and you want to know, okay, is my setup working before I publish it? This is how you do it. Come in, you do whatever it is kind of action that you've defined to trigger your site. You go on your website and do it here. So when you interact with your website, it's all going to show up back here. And you'll know, okay, I did the action on my site, but it didn't fire. Okay, now I need to go and open up the tag. I need to look, okay, why didn't it fire? Oh, it says X equals GTM course. Okay, so product equals GTM course. That's not defined. This data isn't populated, so that's why it's not fired. So you're not fired. Okay. You know, you can helps you debug. So if you create custom variables, you also see that populate here. These are all pre-built. GTM gives you a bunch of pre-built variables that you can use. I'll show you those. So these are the pre-built, but they're not all of them. All of them are here. And usually when you have a new container, you just enable them all because they're pretty handy. And then you can define your own, but I won't get to that just yet. So yeah, if you'll see all your variables, user defined and predefined here. You can see any data layer kind of events. You can also see the same thing here. And yeah, so that's pretty much what you can do within Tag Assistant. So let's get back to the data layer stuff and give it a go. So when I'm debugging or you know, doing quality assurance, I use a combination of Tag Assistant and the console. If you're not aware of DevTools, so every browser has developer tools. And usually it's F12. If not, you can right click and hit inspect. You know, pull something like this up. Usually it'll pull up on this page first. You just need to switch to console. So this is the console. You can run JavaScript code in the browser. Okay. So I have some JavaScript that I use to log any of my data layer events to the console as soon as they show. So I have to show you what a data layer event looks like. So a data layer event is not configured through GTM. Like I said, it's two separate tools, right? It's actually hard coded. So you have to go into your site and you say, okay, right here, this is a button. This button is specifically this one right here. So when I click this button, I've set it up so that on click, a data layer push will occur, and it will send an event called learn GTM clicked, a product name GTM learning, a price called 999.99, and a currency code USD. Okay, so data layer is hard coded into the site. It's not set up to GTM. A developer has to go in and put it in, but it doesn't have to be on a button push. You know, you can send a data layer push event, like pushing data to the data layer, on really anything. A form selection, you know, they're on a form and they're selecting their country, right? So they click country and the drop down opens and they scroll and they click Brazil or something, okay? And that could be a trigger for a data layer when they click Brazil, data layer push, event name, country selected, and then selection Brazil, right? It could be anything. It can be triggered on really any kind of user action and send really any kind of user data. But once you understand the tool, right, itself, you'll have a good understanding of how to use it. So yeah, data layer is just a tool to store data. But how you get it there is you use a data layer push event. And how can a data layer push event be triggered? By really anything. Some examples are button clicks, drop-down selections, viewing a page, It's up to you, you know. So yeah, I have this coded into my site, and I'm going to show you what happens when I click the button now. Learn GTM. As I said, I have this nice code here that pushes all my data layer events to the console, so I can see, okay, fired correctly, right? This is how I intended it. This is the data I want to be pushed. But did it show up in Tag Assistant? Let's see. This is the event. Let's click it. Okay, the event showed up. But this tag did not fire. Why is that? Well, we're going to see. Equals GTM course. Product equals GTM course. Product is GTM learning. Okay, so that's how you can see, okay, did my tag fire? No, it didn't. Did my event fire? Yes. But why didn't it? You can click it and see right here. Oh, okay, that's why. So that's how you can kind of work through an example process of debugging your tag setup. But let's go ahead and set this up the right way and see what we can do. So I have the product variable here, right? So data layer variable product GTM learning. You see it populates correctly. Like I was mentioning before, you can come here and see your variables, whether they're user defined or predefined, and see, okay, are they populating? So once we got, now that we got all that down, let's go ahead and set up some tags like the example I gave a little while back. So I like to create my variables first, okay? So let's create that product. I had it created earlier, that's why you saw it, but I deleted it because I wanted to show you data layer, and that is just product again. So when you're going in to create your setup, I always create my variables first because you'll see sometimes when you're using variables in like a custom code tag, you're going to actually have to put those variables in. It's like 2 double curly brackets and the variable name in there. And if you have like capital letters in your name, it can look weird. It can cause errors. So don't have any capital letters, don't have any spaces, use an underscore if you need to divide it. But I always create my variables first because when you're going to create a tag, and your tag may need variables, like I'll show you. Let me finish this one. Say I'm going to create a tag, right? And let's just say I wanted the tag to be a GA4 tag, right? Okay, I'm creating my tag, I'm getting everything set up. I go through it, I put my event name in, event name, I get everything. Maybe I got my measurement ID. And then I notice, oh wait, I gotta put custom parameters, right? Okay, let me go back, right? Oh, I can't. If I leave, I'm gonna lose all my work. So now you have to backtrack, go create your variables, come back, start your tag again. It's just really smooth if you start you start your way at the bottom and you work your way up. So start small, work your way up, and the smallest being, variables are the littlest things, then work your way up to the tag and the trigger. So yeah, let's go ahead and set this up to be like a custom HTML. Let's set up our trigger, okay? Our trigger is going to be a custom event trigger, and what event are we listening for? That is learn GTM clicked. Okay, learn GTM clicked. And my naming conventions for tags, I like to put like abbreviation for like what the trigger is, and then I like to put the actual like criteria or event name in there. So, and I put a pipe in the middle just to divide it. So that trigger is okay. Some custom things. So we want it to filter this, right? So we only want this tag to fire when the product name equals GTM learning. So when the product name equals GTM learning, this will fire. So not only will it fire an event, because if I don't have this here, it's going to fire every time this event fires from a site. And to let you know, this custom event tag is not really a trigger. It says trigger, but it's more like a listener because it doesn't really do anything without this event being fired previously from the user action on our site of somebody clicking a button, right? So until someone clicks that button, this button here, it's not going to fire. So it's more like a listener. Whenever this event name is pushed to the data layer, this tag is always listening. Okay, it hears this event name come in, okay, it fires. Now you want additional criteria. So this fired, cool, but also product name must equal GTM warning. So if these two occurred, we'll fire. So custom HTML, and I'm not going to put any code in here. I'm just going to put something to make sure it doesn't throw me an error and allows me to save the tag. But you really can put anything in here. You know, to code to grab something from, like you say you want to grab something out of here, like an ID or something. You could use regex perhaps to pull this out. You could do anything. But anyways, we'll use this custom tag. We'll use this custom tag to as an example, and we'll run that now. And let's go ahead and hit preview. Make sure we're previewing everything. Okay, we're connected. Okay, now let's hit that again. And as soon as we click that button again, actually, let's put my code in for logging just to make sure. Okay, let's click it again. Okay, that the event did fire. But let's make sure. Okay, you see my tag fired now because it matches the criteria, right? Because like really, a data layer event is just a tool to push data to the data layer, right? But within that, you can push anything. Like I could push just this event name, and I could take all of this other stuff here out, and that's all I push, just the event name. Or I can put it back and push that. Or I can push e-commerce data. Like there's so many, you know, examples or things you could send to the data layer. You could send really anything because, you know, these are just key and value pairs right here. So this is a key, this is the value, and that's really it. You know, you can send pretty much anything. So yeah, let's go ahead and get back to that. Tag fired, perfect. And yeah, we've already set up a variable, we set up a trigger, we set up a tag. Okay, yeah, I do have an additional tip. So when you are on any tag, you can click these three dots. You can click show notes, and then scroll down, you'll see this here show up. And here you can put notes for your tag. You can put like docs, you know. It's really cool because you can put documentation for your tag right within the tag. And one way I like to use this is, especially if I'm doing like a data layer, data layer push event, because if you know, like I've already showed you, the data layer push event is not in Google Tag Manager, right? It's in the actual website code. So if somebody comes in, they're not going to see the full picture, the full solution. They're only going to see a tag and a trigger. So I'd like to put that in here. So someone comes in here and they have the full picture of what's going on. And I could say something like, this is the data layer code that fires when a user clicks a button, right? And then now somebody comes in, they say, okay, using an HTML tag, it's firing based on custom event name, but also the data layer variable of product that equals GTM warning. Okay, but how is it being triggered? Because where's the data layer push code at? I would have to go ask the developer. But if you put it in the notes, it makes things so much easier. Of that, you can also do folders. So say you have a bunch of tags that are like related, you can just do new folder. Let's say they're all conversion related tags, so they all are related to like conversion events on the site. You can create it, and then you know, go unfiled items, move, conversion related, boom, put them in there. There you go. Now they're all organized in a folder. And yeah, I mean, I hope that this helps. Going back to the diagram, I mean, all GTM is just a tool. You know, dataLayer is a tool too, but they're two separate tools. Don't think of them as the same thing. They're not. They can be used together or without each other. It depends on your solution, what you want to do. GTM itself, think of it as just one big cargo ship. Triggers, think of them as an air traffic controller or car traffic controller. You know, they tell you when to stop or when to go. Tags, think of them as cargo containers. They're just holding data going one place. And GTM itself is just a big ship holding all those containers full of data, tags full of data, right? In a GTM container itself, you could think of that as a bucket. And with a bucket, you know, we want to organize everything in a central place, right? Instead of having everything spread out all over the place, like, right, you have one tag over there, we have a script over here, we can organize it, put our tags or scripts into one place and organize everything. So, to start the funnel, you know, like a solution that's common is you have your website, you'll do a data layer push, you'll get to the data layer, to the port, right? A data layer is like a port. You get stuff trucked from wherever else in the world to the port. It waits at the port, and it doesn't have to go on a ship. Maybe it sits there for a couple of months. Who knows? But if you want to go ahead and send it to GTM and use it in a tag, okay, you would then put it on the ship, and then you have like the you know, sea controller or whatever. In this example I'm creating, I know I'm using a lot of maritime examples, but yeah, and then he'll tell you whether you can go, whether you cannot go. And that's what our trigger does. And tags themselves, to get granular, which are the crates or the containers loaded, are just the things that are carrying the data to somewhere else. So yeah, I hope this really helped you understand what GTM is, what the data layer is, how you can use this, you know, this piece of software to not only organize but centralize everything and make putting code on a site, getting data off a site much easier, and lower your, you know, demand on developers. So yeah, thank you.